Welcome to the Transformation Institute's podcast for change. Here is our host, Omari JAHI Aton.
Oh, wow. Our introduction was kind of whack. I don't know what happened, y'all. But hey, y'all, thank you for being on the Transportation, Lord. I'm all peace, y'all. Welcome to the Transformation Institute podcast for change. I'm your host, Omari JAHI. And tonight, we're going to have a conversation about your money and your legacy. There's a huge rumor going around right now that the legal retirement age just jumped to 70. Is it true? Tonight, we are separating fact from fiction. We're breaking down the absolute best time to apply for Social Security so you don't leave money on the table, and we're getting real about protecting our families with wills and financial and medical power of attorney. If you want to be in charge of your family's future, truly, you can't afford to miss this episode. So with that, let me introduce my co-host. All right, put your hands together for Miss Vanessa, Miss Londa, Miss Brenda, Miss Kim, and my main man, V. We all in the building. Hey, thank y'all for being here. And once again, this podcast is going to be about financial literacy. And with that, tonight, we have a guest, Mr. Ronald Lawless. Mr. Lawless is an asset protector and financial doctor, has been educating consumers on achieving financial freedom for over 30 years. He helps individuals seeking to become debt-free and financially independent while planning for a sustainable retirement income. Ronald became passionate about his role as a mentor after witnessing the industry profit generating from individuals' lack of financial knowledge. He is now on a mission to educate anyone ready to embrace a life of financial freedom. Please put your hands together for Mr. Ronald Lawless. Welcome to the show, Ronald. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing fine. How about yourself and everybody else?
Good, good.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that intro. If you needed to say something else, go right ahead.
No. We want to jump right in. We only got an hour.
Okay.
So and we might go over more.
Okay. Well,
I want to jump right in.
I'll try to stay within that hour. Okay. So let me just say, based on the intro that you just gave, what I used to do, and you've all heard financial advisor, financial planners, and all that stuff. Everybody said, well, you need a financial advisor, you need a financial planner. And that all sounds good when you hear it. But what people really need is education. And they need to understand exactly how money works in a capitalistic system like ours. And at the end of the day, here's what happens for many of you. You all work most of your life. You're putting money away in retirement, whether it be a 401k or some other kind of plan. And then you have advisors who may say, hey, you need to do something else. And they give you advice and they tell you what you should do based on what you tell them. Now, here's the thing about all that. And this is why I got out of the business of being an advisor. You as the consumer, well, first of all, you put up 100% of the money, you take 100% of the risk, and then you get about 30 to 40% of the return. Now, what happens to that other money that you've been investing? What happened to the 50 or 60? Well, that normally goes to people like me. And what happened is that I was like, wow, I'm supposed to be helping people. But in the end, even when people lose money, I still make money. And I just didn't think for me, that was the right way to go. And, people talk about being a fiduciary. To me, a fiduciary is someone who's really looking out for you. And be honest with you, if I'm making as much money off of your money and you putting up 100% of the money and you're taking 100% of the risk, You tell me where there's the fairness in that, and where is the fiduciary. And this is what people need to understand. People say, well, your money is growing, it's accumulating, it's growing, you just got to be patient. In our industry, we always tell people to be patient because we want people to continue to keep their money there, because if your money is there, I'm making money. If your money's not there, I'm not making money. So you think you're making money, but in the end, most of the money you're making is what you already putting in yourself. And you may get a little few pennies here and there from us. So let's just take, for example, you have $100,000 that you invested 35 years ago. And let's just say you didn't do anything with it. And you let me manage that money for those 35 years. If I charge you 2% every year on that money, whether it goes up or down or whatever, in the end, remember what I said, you put 100% of that money in, 100,000. If you had paid me no fee, you would probably made a $1,660,000, $1,600,000 with no fee. With me, and I'm charging you 2%, you're going to make about $500,000. So what does that mean? I made just as much money off of your money. You are still going to go home with less money because guess what? All that money was tax deferred. So Uncle Sam hasn't got his share yet. So it's going to still be less than what you have in what you see in your bank account. So I just wanted to bring that up as which I think is very important. People work all their life and then they retire. And the question is, what type of retirement are you going to have? When are you going to plan for retirement? I think there's three things you have to consider when you're retiring. There is what we call the go-go years. The go-go years are between the ages of 65 and 75 and 80, depending on your health. Those are when you're still doing things. You're playing pickleball, tennis, whatever you do. Then we have what we call the go slow years. Those are the years where, hey, you know what? I'm not as interested in playing pickleball as much. I'm not as interested in going out as much. I just want to settle, spend more time with my grandkids, and so on and so forth. The no-go years are the years where, I'm just waiting my time. I had a great life, and I call those the years where you should have insurance, because the insurance now will help pay for any legacy that you want to leave behind. And we're going to talk about how people sometimes don't take advantage of what they have in assets and why most people retire broke. A Stanford University study showed that 70% of people who say, if you ask 100% of people where do they want to live when they get older and if they're sick, everybody wants to live in a home. Nobody wants to go to an institution or anything like that. Problem is 70% of the people that answer that question end up in a home or an institution or wherever, or living in what we call the sandwich generation. So with that being said, I'm going to talk a little about Social Security because everybody knows about it. And you did mention something about Social Security in the age 70. Let me just say, first and foremost, that is a myth. The full retirement age is still 67. Now, there has been talk to raise the retirement age to 70, but that's just talk. And the reason they're having that talk is because Social Security is going to run out of money. And in order for Social Security not to run out of money, they got to make people wait a little longer. So here's the thing. When Social Security first came out, there were 5 people who were putting in Social Security for one person.
What do you mean by that? 5 people putting in for one?
For example, I retire. There are 5 people who were, for every one person, there were 5 people who were paying my Social Security benefit.
Oh, I get you. Yeah.
Okay. So that meant there was more than enough money. Okay. Then later on, it became 3 to 1. Now it's 2 to 1. So that means it takes 2 people salary, where it used to be 5, to pay my Social Security benefits. And here's the big problem with all that. People are living longer. You live longer, your Social Security is going to last longer. I have a friend that just passed. She was 105 years old. She retired at 65. She got 40 years worth of Social Security. She got more out of Social Security than she put in. Women are more likely to live longer than men. That's a known fact. And with that being said, women are also more likely to have ailments and illnesses that are going to be probably more prevalent and have an impact on their life. Black women, studies have shown, are more likely to get Alzheimer's and dementia versus their other counterparts. That's just a study. So what I'm saying is that we need to begin to prepare for retirement, what I call the red zone, 60 to 65. What most people wait until 65 or when they're ready to retire to say, hey, I'm ready to retire. Let's talk about it. That's the worst and the wrong time to talk about it. You need to be really thinking about it at age 50 and then working your way up to the year that you want to retire. Say, I want to retire at 65. You now got 15 years to work with. If you want to retire at age 70, you got 20 years to work with. So with all that being said, it's a lot of information. Social Security in itself has over 2,500 rules, and you trying to figure those rules out is just crazy. And that's where people like me come in. We try to help you understand those rules and try to also mitigate all the myths that you might hear out there. So with regards to that 70-year-old being 70, you don't have to be 70. You just have to be, at this point, you still got to be 67. So I'm going to share a PowerPoint that I brought discussing Social Security. And I'm going to pull that up whenever you're ready. Let's see. Do I need to share it? I think, no, I got it.
Good.
Any questions based on what I've said? I kind of want to look longer than I'm normal, but But I think it's very important. I think it's important people understand that you really don't need a financial advisor. There are people that do it for pro bono. What you first need is a couple of things before you start talking about a financial advisor. What do you think that one thing you need before you start talking about a financial advisor?
Money.
Money. Thank you. If you ain't got no money, why are we talking? The other thing you need is to be, if you don't have it, that's great. No debt. If you have debt, try to keep it minimized. I always tell people, I know that people are not living within their means. The reason I know they're not living within their means is because they're subsidizing their lifestyle with credit cards and the debt that comes with it and the interest that comes with it. So we'll talk more about that. So when should you start receiving retirement benefits? That's one of the big questions I get all the time is when should I really start to think about retirement? Well, before I do that, last year, the Social Security Fairness Act came into play. So for example, people that were, how would I put it? Working for the federal government, state teachers, they were not eligible for retirement benefits from Social Security. So they end up having to only get a portion of that. Now that's all gone away. So if you had been one of those person or somebody that didn't get their full Social Security benefit, they can go to the Social Security and say, hey, look, I want to sign up to make sure I get all of my benefits now, starting from 2024 all the way through. So that means
let me stop you real quick. So what you're saying is if somebody, let's say somebody decided to file for Social Security at 60 and they don't get their full benefits, so at 67, they can go back and say, I want my full benefits. Is that what you're saying?
Prior to 2024, anyone that worked for a government agency, teachers, police, state, they didn't normally pay into Social Security. But what happened is before they got those jobs, they did pay into Social Security. And Social Security said, wait a minute, we're not going to let you get both of them because that's too good of a deal. Well, the problem with that is that if someone retired and their husband or wife died and they were getting Social Security, they were not eligible to pick that up through the survivor benefits, which then meant they lost that income. And when they lost that income, they were now living off that one income, which was the income that they were getting. And the government said, wait a minute. And this is a big push for the Republicans. The Republicans pushed this more so than the Democrats. They said, look, we got a lot of senior citizens in our backwoods who are struggling to pay their bills because they can't get either their Social Security that they earned before they got this government job, or they can't get the Social Security of their husbands or wife because of this rule that prevents them from having it. So Joe Biden signed into law the Fairness Act, which eliminated all that. So now, for those of you who are retiring from this point on, who work for government or some type of agency where you don't pay Social Security in this retirement plan, whatever Social Security you paid before, as long as it was 10 years, you can now get. So for a lot of people who before 2024, for people that, let's say somebody retired in 2000, and they had Social Security and their husband died and they couldn't get their benefit. For those 24 years, they never got that Social Security. Now they can get it. Okay.
Oh, so it could be back, so they can go all the way back to 2000 and get
no. You can it only goes back to 2024. So
okay. Yeah.
So, but unfortunately, they happen to retire when this law was in existence. For those of you now who are going to retire from this point on, this is a big bonus for you, especially if you're getting a pension from the government. So let's talk about when should you start receiving retirement benefits. There's three thoughts here. You can get at your full retirement age, depending on when you were born. If you were born in 1959, this is the last year that people that are born in 1959 that will be able to get their retirement at 66. And if you're born 1960 and beyond, it's 67. Once again, it could change for the people that might have been born in the 80s or the 90s. We don't know. But right now, if you were born in 1960 to up to 2024, you only have to be 67 for full retirement. Now, a lot of people, they do get their retirement early at age 62. And then there are some people who wait until age 70. There are some benefits to all three of those. The question is depending on where you are in your life and what you're in your money situation. So when you claim the benefits, it's going to affect your overall retirement income. And what you have to also take into effect, if that you're married, it also can affect your spouse income as well. And we'll talk about how that happens. Okay. So you have to really take this Social Security, especially when you marry, you really need to sit down and really understand how Social Security works and how if something, because men usually die before the women. And if that's the case, women find themselves being shortchanged and not getting enough Social Security because their husband got their Social Security at 62 instead of waiting at 67, where maybe if they waited to 67, they could have done some strategies to say, hey, I'm going to keep working or whatever, so you don't have to take your Social Security at 62. But we'll talk about that in a few. So what should you consider? You should consider your full retirement age and benefit calculations. So the amount of your future benefits effect of early or delayed retirement. So if you get your money early, it's going to have an impact on how much money it's going to have on in terms of what you can get throughout your lifetime. So how long you expect retirement to last based on your life expectancy. So here's what I tell people. I say, look, what family let's talk about your family history. Do your family have a history of cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, all that stuff? And does your family have a short life expectancy? If your family is known for dying in their 70s, 62 might be a good time to get your Social Security. Because at the end of the day, you're going to get more of it than if you wait 70. So if your family is known for not making it past 75 and you wait to 70, you're only going to get 5 years. And now here's the other thing. For anybody that's single, if you don't take your Social Security at all and you wait until you get 70 and you die at 69, guess who gets that money? Who you think gets that?
Government.
The government keeps that money.
Yeah.
Okay, the government keeps that money. So this also means whether you plan on continuing to work. If you're planning on continuing to work, it may not make sense for you to get your Social Security because you're going to have to pay Social Security back, and we're going to talk about that too. And then the other source of retirement income, like I said, you may have a pension, you may have a supplement, or you may just be working part-time. A lot of people are Ubering. A lot of people do Uber Eat. It's a lot of people do Amazon. I mean, people are doing a lot of different things. Sometimes people, they become caterers. They've had a passion to do this. And so they're doing these type of things. And income taxes. How much income taxes will you have to pay on that money? And once again, how will your spouse be affected by all this? So let's look at this real quick. If you were born in 1959, you have 66 years and 10 months to be at your full retirement age. Then anything after that, 1960 and later, you have to wait until 67. So, Omari, what year were you born in?
I was born in 61.
Okay, so 61. So you wait until 67 before you get your full retirement. So you'll be 67 when? And 61 in 3 years.
Yeah.
In 3 years. So if you're going to be 67 in 3 years and you want the full retirement, you're just going to have to wait, and you need to try to say, but we got to look at the numbers to see if it makes sense. If it's a couple of dollars more, then it may not be worth waiting. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
Social Security can help you figure that out. It may, like, if you wait 3 more years, you may be only going to get $200 more a year. If you divide that by 12, that's going to be like, what, $20? Yeah, I'm listening.
Let me ask you, Ron. You say Social Security can help you, but those people, man, they had, like, when you call them, they put you on hold or they don't answer the phone. Is there some kind of calculator online that people can use to figure out, whether they are whether they should wait till 67? Like you say, if it's just a couple of dollars more, then it ain't worth waiting for. But the calculation, how can we figure that calculation out on our own, or do we actually have to go through some person at Social Security to be able to determine all that?
I would go through Social Security because they got everything. Okay. What we find that some people don't even realize they've worked all these years and may not have enough years for Social Security because the company they work for or somebody they work for did not report their earnings to Social Security. And those companies are gone out of business and so on and so forth. And I always tell people to do an annual checkup on their Social Security, make sure you're getting those dollars put into Social Security so you don't get caught with that surprise. Hey, wait a minute, you don't have enough years. What do you mean I don't have enough years? I've been working for 30 years of my life. Well, the company you work for didn't pay your Social Security. What do you mean they didn't pay? Hey, I'm just telling you, there's nothing that shows in our system that you've been paying Social Security. Okay. So what happens is Social Security takes the highest 35 years of your earnings. So if you work 40, 45 years, they're going to take 35 years of the best years that you made money, and they're going to average that. And that's what's going to come out to your benefit for full retirement age. And now here's the thing, a reason why I say trying to do this on your own is not in your best interest. You don't take into COLA, the cost of living, a whole lot of numbers are in play. And even while you're still working, you're still earning towards your Social Security. So that's why it's best to go to Social Security and get them to do it. Now, look, let's be fair to people at Social Security. They're overworked, underpaid, and not enough staff. As you know, with this new administration, they just came in cutting people and left and right. They didn't give them time to get their coat to get out.
Right.
Okay. All right. And that in itself will take a lot of toll on you. It's stressful. And dealing with the public, it's hard. And if anybody that ever works with the public, you know what I'm talking about. So how much will you receive claiming benefits early? So let's say if you start at age 62, and this is just an example, let's say you would get $1,400. Well, that's going to also grow over time because you're going to get a cost of living. But that's a big difference between what you would get if you waited to age 67. So if you took your money at age 65, Omari, you would have get $1,733. That's a difference between almost $300 that you would get a month. So you have to take that into consideration. But in some cases, some people, this is all they have. They have to take what they can get and make the most of it. Realistically, the average Social Security benefit on the West Side is about $1,100 a month. And you're paying, depending on whether you get help from government, Medicaid, or whatever, you got to pay your Medicare Part B out of that. You got to pay your rent out of that. You got to buy food. It's hard getting old. And let me just say this. There's nothing to be said about being poor. I always said being poor is not what you want. But you've been working all your life and everybody's been telling you, if you do this, you do this, you do this, you should be okay. But what they didn't do is educate you on how to disperse the money after you accumulated the money. It's one thing to accumulate. It's another thing to know how to disperse it so you keep most of the money. Because what happens is most people give most of their money back to Uncle Sam because they didn't understand when you say defer means you're just only deferring what you got to pay Uncle Sam at a later date. And so that's another story. So if you think about it, benefits reductions, you receive 25% to 30% less of your money at age 62 than if you did it at your full retirement age. That's a big drop. Okay. Benefits received for, go ahead. What's the question?
There's a question on the.
Yes. Yeah, it says here, I guess she's asking the question based on when you were saying some companies don't report your Social Security.
Yeah.
And I think her question is based on that. She was asking, if you take our Social Security out our check, isn't that proof that you have been getting Social Security taken out?
You could put anything on a check stub. Are they reporting it?
Wow.
Okay. I mean, the question is, are they reporting it? They may be saying they're taking it, but are they reporting it and actually submitting it? Because remember, when they
yeah, would that be a crime if they don't report it? Something can, I mean,
of course it would be a crime, but most people won't know that until it's time to collect, because people just assume that they're getting it taken out. And that's why I say people need to do an audit of their retirement. I should say their Social Security.
Oh, wow.
I mean, so, you know, people need to.
Well, let me ask you this, Ronald. Is that expensive? You have to get a CPA or something like that?
Look,
you know, and you have to pay them to do an audit on your, and how often?
Well, Social Security does the audit. You can just say to Social Security, hey, by the way, I've been working these years. I just want to make sure my Social Security is being reported. And can you tell me how much I've been reported for that year? You know, you won't, I mean, you could know if you actually pay attention to your check stub, but most people don't. But you just want to make sure something's been reported. You at least have to have a certain amount every year. I think this year you need $1,850 to get 1 quarter per year. So that means you need 4 quarters for 10 years to be eligible for both Social Security and Medicare. Okay. So basically people need to get a report of their Social Security, take time out of your busy schedule, because this is where you're putting most of your money. And this is where most of people will get their retirement money, because unfortunately, most people don't have pensions anymore. And most people who do get a supplemental income like 401ks or 403bs, that's not enough money to carry them unless they get some type of annuity or something like that. So benefits received for a longer period of time will give you more money. So let's say you delay getting your money to age 70. That's $2,000, 24. You can increase that by $408. So you're getting about an 8% raise on your money for the next 3 years until you retire. Now, here's the best part. Where else can you get 8% of your money from anybody and not have to worry about losing it? Okay.
No, right.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, you need to start thinking about this now and not when you retire, because most people are under the misconception that, well, I'm going to take it at 62, not understanding that they're going to lose money. But in some cases, you may have to take it at 62. You may not be able to work anymore. You may have health issues. If somebody says, you know, you got a heart problem and you know you'd like to still smoke, drink, and eat bad food, take your money at 62, because you probably won't make it to 70 or 80. Okay.
Wow. Really?
I mean, let's be honest.
Blind. That's real blind. You might die.
I mean, yes, but the reality is, if I tell you you got a bad heart, and the reason you got a bad heart is because you were doing these 3 things, and you're still doing these 3 things. Now a bad heart versus a good heart, you know your chances of kicking or sticking around are not gonna be as long. And let me just say this: I have 5 friends that I grew up with. They all have dementia. They're in their 60s.
Wow.
So I would recommend that they take their Social Security at 62, because dementia has a life expectancy of maybe 7, 10, 15 years. Okay. Wow. So you got to keep all this in mind. What's going on in your world? Do you have some illness? Do you need the money? You know, or you figure, look, you know what? I'm still able to do some part-time stuff or whatever. I'm going to take my money and I'm going to invest the difference and let it grow for me. And I'm not going to touch it, whatever, because I'm going to let it grow for me. There's a lot of scenarios you can consider and think about when you're doing this. So once again, benefit at age 70 is 77% more than benefit at age 62. So you get 77% more of your money at 70 than 62. Now, somebody might say, well, what about if I go from 62 to 70, I'm going to accumulate about $134,000. So if you start getting your money to age 62 and at age 70, you have already taken in $134,000. Whereas the person who waited to 70, they haven't taken in a dime. Now, the question is, and I think somebody asked the question, how long will it take to catch up by waiting to get that 134 to equal what I would have gotten if I gone from 62 to 70? It would take about 8 years for your 70 at this $2,480 to catch up with that $134,000. Look, like everything in life, it's like Russian roulette. You're taking a chance. You're gambling. You're gambling at 70 that you're going to live a longer life than the person that probably took their money at 62. Wow. And then again, the person at 62 may live longer. Once again, if they do live longer, they've just what we say, they beat the system because they probably are going to get more money out of the system than what they put into the system. So 1 in 3 retirees will live until the age 90. I think that number, depending on how healthy you are, where you live, and so on and so forth, is going to be probably 95. People are living longer. Yeah. But if you think about it, African Americans tend to live in their 80s and never make it to their 90s as long as, compared to the other groups. And 1 in 7 will live until at least age 95. But we got a lot of people that are living to their hundreds. So once again, we are living longer. That means Social Security has to pay me more than what I put in. And I only got 2 people out of 1 people who are supporting it. And which means that I'm going to run out of money sooner than later, because when they put Social Security in place, the average age was 50 to 60 years old that a person lived. And people did get a pension back then. So they had the pension and Social Security. Social Security was never meant to be your primary retirement plan. It was always meant to be a supplement. Unfortunately, it has become a lot of people's primary insurance. Okay. So if you're planning on continuing to work and you're under full retirement age, then you have to look at that's going to cost you too. Earning from a job will reduce your Social Security benefits as well. Now,
I was going to ask you about that.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's say I filed for Social Security. I'm gonna be 65 Monday, right? Okay. Let's say I filed for Social Security, but yet I still want to. I'm able to keep working. Maybe you have that in your presentation. What is the amount that I can make before they start deducting from my Social Security?
Okay, so let's just use this example. This is in 2023. I think it's about $24,000 now. So let's just say you're working, but you need to let Social Security know you're working. Do not let them know. Okay, so they can make sure you don't fall into this trap.
Let me clarify working. Let's say I fix TVs on the side, or I'm an auto mechanic, and I got a garage. I work out of my garage, and people come and I fix the cars, and they give me money, and I supplement my income like that. You know what I'm saying? That's not getting reported, correct?
Okay. So what we're looking at with Social Security is W-2s. Okay. So if somebody's giving you a W-2, that's what we're looking at. Now, if you're doing that, I wouldn't tell Social Security that. It's none of their business. You could be doing that as a hobby, and I just want to give you something because I like you. Okay. Mm-hmm. But let's say you get a W-2 and you're working, and you go, let's use 2023. You go over $21,000 and $240. So every dollar that you go over, every $2 that you earn over that limit, we're going to take $1 back. Okay. So you don't want to end up. So let's just say you made $50,000 that year. You basically wiped out what you got. So Social Security is saying you owe us because we gave you all this money, and then but you made more money than you're supposed to. So you got to keep that in mind too. If you know you're going to continue working and you're going to make more than $21,240, you don't file for Social Security because you're just only giving the money back.
So that number is 21,200.
That was for 2023. So in 2025, it may be 24,000, I believe.
24,000. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. So the bottom line is, whatever the number is, and it's gonna go up next year too. It goes up every year. So whatever that number is, if you take your Social Security at age 62, you cannot make more money than that $21,240 if you don't want to give Social Security $1 back for every $2 that you go over. So now if you go down to the bottom where it says at or full retirement age, you can make all the money you want and nobody's going to bother you. You can make all the money you want at 67 or 66, depending on when you're full retirement age.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I always tell people, most people who do take retirement at 62, basically that's all they have. They don't have the ability to work a job anymore. They may have some type of disability. They may be sick. They may be ill. That's usually when most people take the retirement and take their Social Security at 62, because they just don't. They don't have no other means for income.
Right. But now let me ask you this real quick. Go ahead, Brenda. Go ahead. And then I got one for him.
Okay. So if you take your Social Security at 62 and you work and you make more than that amount, can Social Security stop paying you if you make too much money? Will they just stop paying you? Period.
They'll stop paying you because you're working against yourself now.
Okay.
And then
you file? Okay.
Go ahead. Can you file?
Can you file again later, or will that be some sort of penalty because you did that?
No, it won't be a penalty. What Social Security would do is just reduce the amount that you'll get next year versus what you were getting this year. That's why it's important that you tell them if you're working, so they can make sure that if this becomes a problem, they can stop it. So therefore, you won't get penalized.
Okay. So it's good that they stop.
Yeah, because you end up paying, because next year your payment is going to be less than what it would have been, because they got to recover that money. I mean, asking you for that money back, they know they're not going to get it. So where do I get my money? I get it. I get it where I know you're going to be getting it. So all right. So when I tell people, when you're going to retire, some things you need to think. We all know we're going to get Social Security, basically. Now, a lot of people believe it or not, there are a lot of people out there that do not get Social Security. They have worked, but they never got W-2s. They hustled all their lives.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All right. And so they made money, but they were making money off the book. So don't have no Social Security, have no Medicare. You have savings and investments. You also have your job earnings, and you got the pension benefits. So if you take all these things, you should be okay in retirement. If you have I always tell people, if you got $400,000+ in your supplement, retirement plan, whatever, you should be okay versus someone that doesn't have that. I can still work with you, but you won't have as much money as they do. Okay. And remember, Social Security is taxed based on your provisional income. That means once you start getting Social Security and you still make more money, as you were saying, you make additional money, anything that's $25,000 to $34,000, Social Security will probably be between 0 and 50% as a single person. Okay.
Now that's with a W-2, right?
Right.
Okay.
Now, if you're just doing what you're doing, you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
Okay. It's all of us who are working, and we're getting a W-2. Now, if you're married, you can do $32,000 to $44,000, and 50% of your benefits may be taxable based on how much, where you are in that 32 to 44. If you're at 44,000, you're going to pay 50% of your Social Security in taxes. Now, if you go over, let's just say I'm a single person. If I go over 34,000 and I make $100,000, Well, obviously, I'm going to pay 85% of my benefits and taxes. Now, if you know you're going to pay taxes, you can ask Social Security to take the taxes out as part of that payment to you. So that way you're not caught with, oh gosh, I got to pay Social Security at the end of the year. You can ask them to take it out. So I always tell people, take it out. If you don't have to pay it, you get it back.
That's true. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
You do it. Go ahead.
Now, let me see if I got this right. So let's say my retirement age is 67. I file at 65. And so I know at 67, I can make as much money as I want to make and they won't bother me. But
well, you sound, go ahead.
Huh?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
From
65 to 67. Now, when I get to 67, will I still have that, even though I filed at 65, would I still have that same right to not worry about how much money I make once I reach 67?
Right. Once you make 67, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Just it's out the window. And if you, based on how you're going to be making the money, which is not a W-2, you really don't have to worry about that at all. So what Uncle Sam is saying, look, we really don't want you to take this money too soon, because if you take this money out too soon, we got to pay you more and maybe longer. So they're trying to be a discouragement by saying you're going to have to pay taxes on it. And if you don't, you can't make more money than you just can't make a lot of money. So, you almost have to live in poverty in order to get around. So, but think about this. When we talk about Social Security, if you're married, are you married, Omari?
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes the wife makes more money than the husband. And we're going to talk about how that works. So you got household and survivor income, and what the appropriate combination of claiming age. So for example, if you got 2 Social Security checks coming in, you're living off 2 Social Security checks. That's probably pretty good. Am I right?
Right.
But here's what happens. When one of you go and you're no longer here, you're not only on 1 Social Security check. And that means that person who's left is going to now have to live off of less money than what they were living off of, because there's 2 checks are no longer there. The person that passed, that check is gone. So you get the highest of the 2 checks that were being paid out. So if your husband was getting $3,000 and you were getting $1,000, which is really going to be $1,500, because you get 50% of that $3,000, which would be $1,500. So they're going to give you $3,000. So you're talking about $4,500 a month. Now that he's gone, you're only going to get $3,000. That's $1,500 that you no longer have. So now you have to adjust your lifestyle. So where do you make up the difference if you don't have anything else in place and all you have is Social Security? So retirement benefits are based on your earning records. Remember that. At full retirement, you're entitled to 100% of your full retirement benefits. But your spouse, as I said before, they're entitled to 50% of that full retirement benefit. If it's less than that, they're only going to be entitled to maybe 32 or 40-some%. So let's just say, once again, Omari, your Social Security check is $3,000. That means 50% of that is $1,500. If your wife's Social Security is $1,000, they're going to add $500. So now it's going to be $1,500. So you're going to bring in $4,500. But if your wife gets $2,000 and your 50% is $1,500, then there's no additional money that's going to be given to her, because she's already past that threshold. Because all she can get is $1,500. But if she gets $2,000, she doesn't get that extra $500, because unless you are making $5,000, then she can get $2,500, because she gets that $500, because that's 50%.
50%, right.
Okay. So is everybody following me? Any questions, or am I making this pretty clear? I don't want to lose anybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
So far, so good.
Yeah. Okay. So remember, there's a reduction for filing for your spousal benefits early. Spouse can't file until retired worker files. So for example, Omari, if your wife wants to get some of your Social Security, she can't until you retire. She can get hers, but she can't get any of yours because you're still working.
Now, what if she's younger than me? She's not at retirement age yet. And I filed for Social Security Can she get some of that?
No, she can't get. Only time she can start getting any Social Security benefit is at age 62. But at that point, I would tell her to wait until age 67, or if she can 70, depending on how much money she got coming in. But I'm gonna tell you something she could do that could benefit her based on you being older. So we'll talk about that. So survivor benefits. If you're a survivor and your husband or your wife is gone, you can start collecting Social Security at age 60, but it will be subject to that reduction. Unless you just really need it and you don't have anything else you're doing, you can get survivor benefit at age 60. Now, your spousal benefits, you can only start getting at age 62. Okay? So just so you know, a lot of people do take it at 60. So let's just say right quickly, you're age 62, spouse 1 and 2, you get a total of $3,077 if you both took your money at 62. But if you wait until full retirement age, you get $4,396. So, but if you wait until age 70, both of you, because some people like to work, they may just wait. That's $5,451. Okay. Yeah. So, you have to take before you can say when is the best time to retire. One, take into account what's your financial situation. Are you bringing any income? If you're not bringing any income, you got to take it. Are you sick? Do you have a bad heart? Do you got kidney or cancer? Might be a good time to take it. If you got dementia, if you've been diagnosed with dementia and you're age 60, take it at 62. Why are you waiting? Because this may sound cruel. You won't even know it's even going to be coming to you because you won't remember anything. And it helps.
Wow.
I mean, I don't mean to be, I'm not being mean, but I'm just being realistic. So the whole point is it gives that family member who's taking care of you some additional dollars to help support you and care for you, because it's going to be expensive and it's not going to be something that anybody really wants to do. So the monthly joint, go ahead.
Because man, time is flying and we got maybe about 13 minutes.
Okay.
Can we get into the will, power attorney and all that stuff?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's talk about that. So real quickly, let me just see this real quick. I'm gonna get this out the way. Go. But let me say this about so if you're married to someone for 10 years, you are eligible for their retirement.
Okay.
For their Social Security. If they die, before 67, you're eligible for their full retirement benefit as if they were 67. You can start getting that at age 60. What I tell people, if you got someone who has died, take their money first at 67, let your money grow to 70, and then take your money, make the switch. You can get two benefits. Okay.
Okay.
So you get 100% of a survivor benefit versus 50%. But go ahead. What's the will and questions you want to ask me about?
I had a question, so we go over to the will.
Go ahead, Londa.
So even though the current age for retirement is still at 67, and Social Security may, face some funding gaps between now and I'm assuming when my generation actually gets there. So say it's like 2030, 2033. How, if our listeners, if that's in their plan and retirement right now, and say Congress raised that age or tweak the benefits before their actual retirement age, what would be the best advice for those listeners? So if Congress changes the retirement age or they tweak the benefits, then that means something in here changes. What's the workaround? What's plan B?
Plan B is not to depend on Social Security. Plan B is to actually have a game plan for your own supplemental retirement. Create your own plan, maybe get an annuity or whatever, because you can't depend on what the government is going to do. The government, your Part B is going to continue to go up. People paid $185 last year. They're paying $202 now. If we're paying $202 now and you're saying you're going to retire in 2035, you might be at $500 a month just to keep Medicare Part B. Two, if the money is running out, they will do two things. Congress will either keep up with the pace of inflation or they'll reduce the amount of money everybody will receive. So that all these numbers we're talking about, they don't mean anything because they're going to adjust everything. So the best thing you can do is to sit down and ask yourself, what type of life do I want? What's the game plan? What's my care? How am I, what are the things that I need to think about in terms of what I want in retirement? And then ask yourself, is Social Security, think of people that are on Social Security now and how they're living. And think about, man, it may be even worse for me. So I guess I have to ask the question, what alternatives do I have? One, start an IRA, a Roth IRA with an annuity, something like that. All these things are things we can talk about. Like I say, it's education, educating yourself on what your options are and not just listening to somebody who is a financial advisor or whatever, because they are only going to be looking out for themselves as, not basically as in your best interest all the time.
Absolutely.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so as far as the will and
Okay.
I guess what is it called?
So let me talk about estate planning. There's a couple of things.
Estate planning. There it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Estate planning. Once again, people talk about getting a trust. That's what it is, a trust. Estate planning is three areas. Estate planning is a will. A will is a hope plan. What does that really mean? That means you hope people will do what you want them to do.
Right.
Okay. Two, wills, right now, they're putting a depository where people can now place their wills with the county, because sometimes wills get lost and things like that. And people like, where's the will? And there's no will. And then will are challenged. They can go to probate. Aretha Franklin had 3 wills. A judge had to figure out which of the 3 wills was a legitimate one. Mm-hmm. Now, some people may not have been happy because the will that they picked may not have been the will that they got the most. The will that they were probably pushing was the one that they got the most. Prince, remember, when Prince died, Prince did not have anything in order. His whole estate went to probate. So it was split up between him and his, I believe, his sister and brother. Michael Jackson had a trust. So everything was in place. Michael had someone who was the executor. Michael also made sure his mother was taken care of and his children. If you do have a trust, do not make a family member that person over the trust, because you're only going to create confusion. Why make everybody say to that person, well, that's not what mama wanted. I took care of mama and all that stuff. You don't want that, because it's going to be a fight. And if you don't believe me, when you go to the next family funeral, tell me how it goes and with people not being family anymore. Okay.
What is a trust? What is a trust? Yeah, I've heard that, but I don't know what that is.
A trust is it's like a living document. It basically it's a trust that says that whatever you want to happen in that trust cannot be challenged by probate. It's like a vault. You just can't change it. So you can say, I got this life insurance policy. I'm gonna put it in the trust, but my kids can't get any of that money unless they do XYZ. They got to finish. Okay. They got to finish. You still are controlling how your money in your estate is being distributed, even after you left this world.
Okay.
And there's a difference between revocable and irrevocable, correct?
Right.
I was just about to ask that.
Right. Yes. And most of them are irrevocable, but at the end of the day, everybody doesn't need a trust. They can get what we call a transfer of death, which is a document that you can transfer stocks, mutual funds, and stuff like that, bank accounts and things like that. You may just only need that in some real estate. Then you can get what we call a property of death, where this is for cash and things like that, like I say, in the bank account. So there are different types of ways to look at this. Do I need a TOD? Do I need a POD? Do I need a trust? Estate planning is just how you're going to disperse your property once you leave this world.
I have a question.
Gotcha.
Isn't it the same thing if you list beneficiaries on everything?
No. Well, here's the thing. Beneficiary outranks everything, even in a trust, because because the beneficiary, the trust can't, because that's something totally different. That's a different entity. This is why people need to make sure whenever you got insurance, every year I tell people, check your beneficiary. Make sure that the person that's on your beneficiary is not, when my mother passed, I had to change my beneficiary because my mother was my beneficiary. So when one of my sisters passed, I had to take her off. You don't want to find yourself thinking that, hey, things are just going to change and that ex-wife or that ex-husband ends up getting all your money. Make sure your house is in order. But remember this too. If you have children and you're not married, even your mother and sister, doesn't make a difference. That child is the only person that the court or the funeral home will talk to, because that is the immediate heir to your family, to that person. Even if you think that person is the worst person to talk to, doesn't make a difference. If they're over 18, they got to talk to them. They make the decision. They make the call.
And that's only if you don't have a trust in place.
If you don't have a trust or a will or something like that.
Right.
Okay. But the bottom line is, with the will, it takes time and the trust, but you still have to have the remains and everything. They will not release the remains to you if they know that a child is old enough to take control of the remains. Even though you may be paying for everything, but the child is the only person that will have a say as to what happens to those remains. Now,
did you discuss the irrevocable? Did you tell us the difference between the
difference
irrevocable?
The irrevocable means you can't change it. Once you lock yourself in it, you're locked. Or the revocable, you can always change it. So you want to make sure that you are sure about what you're doing when you make these decisions and who you're putting in as your person that you want to control your estate after you leave.
Is it safe to say that when you actually own a revocable or irrevocable trust, by the way, or with even with your estate planning, that part of that benefit is that you kind of own nothing, but you still control everything, especially if your trust is funded properly? Correct. So if we educating them, it's just want them to understand and know that a trust is really, really, really important and beneficial to every household, in my opinion, but you're the expert. So I just wanted you to hit on that.
Well, if everybody can get the trust, I would say do a trust, but you got to fund the trust. You can't just have a trust and there's no money. So, you say, well, I got this trust, but who's going to pay to keep the house up? Where's the money to keep the house up? You want to keep the house in the family, but who's going to pay the taxes? How are you going to pay the taxes and things like that? The trust, the main thing that the trust does, it keeps it out of the court. And it allows the executor, whoever the executor is, to do what that person wants to have done in that trust. Okay. So basically, if you really want to make sure that you want your property or your money to be done, you want certain things done with it, you put it in a trust. So for example, if I die, I want my money to be given to animal shelters. Now, my family members may say, hey, no, we're not doing that. Well, it doesn't make a difference. My executor has gotten the orders. That's what he wanted. That's what I got to do. And he gets paid to do that. So he's going to do his job.
Okay, I know we got a couple of minutes. Can you speak real briefly on this? It's not guardian. Power of attorney.
There are two types of
medical and financial. Right. Yeah.
So the medical power of attorney is just for medical. Some people think, well, once you get power of attorney, it's for everything. No, it's just for the medical. Okay. With the financial power of attorney is you control the money, the bank account, in case that person is unable to do that themselves. Okay. Reason you want, as if you have parents and they got a caretaker, you want to be on their bank account. Here's the reason why. Because you don't know what that caretaker is doing. They could be writing checks. And by the time you guys find out they've done that, the money is gone. So when you got a person that's senior and you know that they aren't mindful of their money, they say, well, I don't need you to manage my money. Yeah, you do. Because you don't know what that caretaker may or may not be doing. There is a case where with Bank of America, a woman took $250,000 of one of her persons she was taking care of. She stole $250,000. And the family didn't find out until the bank called and said, look, some suspicious stuff is going on with your mother's account. We think you need to investigate this. Well, that's long down the road. $250,000 is gone.
Right.
Okay. And anybody that's 65 as of 2025, they're entitled to what we call a senior deduction. That's $6,000 plus $2,000 and their basic standard deduction. So a single person could end up writing off $23,750 this year on their taxes if they're 65 as of the end of December of 2025.
Oh, thank you, Ron.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're out of time. So let people know, Ronald, where they can get in, how they can get in touch with you if they want more information and if they want to use your services and all of that. Let us know how we can do that.
Well, first of all, you can reach me by email. It's lawless@thelawlessreport.com. Okay, that's one place. Okay. And that's lawless@thelawlessreport.com. I can also be reached at 312-912-9571. And I just think, with Social Security being such an important topic, I wanted to just make sure we definitely can discuss that. And then let me just say this about generational wealth. Somebody did ask about that. Let me just close by saying this. If you want to create generational wealth, you first have to not get into generational debt. And that just means a continuation of debt from one generation to the next. They talk about money being the root of all evil. I think debt is the root of all evils. Because if you think about it, if you think about all the debt that you have and all the interest that you pay on it per month, and then you look at what you have to show for it, think about how much money you could have had being saved and invested, which could be the difference between whether or not you have the retirement that you want versus the retirement that you don't want. And if you want to really, people ask me, what is the thing? Start early. First of all, you need to start early. If you can't you need to put 15% of your money away a year when you can. Everybody can't start there. Start with 1%, then increase it, 2%, 3% until you get to 15%. Because by that time, if you do it that way in increments, you now have built yourself into a habit of saying, I now have enough money to put 15% away per year. If you're not putting away enough money, you're just putting away a couple dollars here and there, you're not gonna see much of it in the end. It's gonna be like you're just putting money away. But in the end, when you work somewhere for 30 years and your 401k is only $100,000, what happened? What are you gonna do with $100,000? And remember, it's not all your money. It's Uncle Sam's too, because you got a partner.
Wow. Uncle Sam is your partner, right?
Uncle Sam is your partner, whether you like it or not. He's going to always be your partner. Think about this also in closing. You get people say, well, I got equity in my house. I said, that's nice. But here's the thing. You don't own the equity. They say, yes, I do. I said, no, you don't, because you have to go to the bank to get that equity. And the bank is only going to give you as much as they want to give you. On top of, they're going to make you pay money to them to even get the money out of the house for equity. So when do you really own something, basically? Almost, even if you don't even have to get equity, you still don't own your home because you're paying taxes. Don't pay your taxes. Guess what's going to happen? They're going to sell it. So I just try to educate people on what they need to know so they can understand. If you're going to work in this capitalistic system, you need to understand how it works. And people like me, I can help you and be willing to help you. I'd be glad to talk to anybody about anything that they heard about tonight or anything we didn't talk about. I'd be glad to and I will send you out what I call my 12 checklist for retirement.
Beautiful, man. Thank you, Ronald, for being here, man. And thank you, my co-hosts. Thank you all for everybody that was on that was listening. We gave you Ronald's information so you can kind of give him a call, email him. We gave you his website so y'all can check him out. And get more information about this. And like he said, make sure you plan in advance for retirement. Don't wait till you get old before you do this, because then it's too late. So once again, thank you, Ronald, man. I thank you for being on. And we'll be back next Thursday night, y'all. So check us out. And until then, continue to think for a change. I'm Omari JAHI. We out.
Thanks for supporting our podcast. We look forward to see you next Thursday at 8 p.m. We also ask that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. The more subscribers we have, The more YouTube will push our podcast to more viewers. But until then, subscribe also for a peaceful mind. Your activity will reflect that peace.